Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. And that sounds really weird saying that because I'm still not used to saying Albuquerque Aliens, and I'm not used to saying NHL 25. But if you didn't catch the first episode, basically we just got the team set up. We had also our first official draft where we brought in a couple players to our roster, and obviously we haven't done any simulation in terms of the season yet. So excited to see what ends up happening in our first season. Obviously, I don't expect our team to win a single game based on how bad it looks. If we head on over to our line screen, you can see how bad our roster is on paper. Obviously, a lot of these guys are just filler players, but we do have Josiah Staubitz, who we took 4th overall, which should be exciting to see what this guy could do this season. I'm expecting some good stuff from him. We're probably going to give him a goal in order to try and achieve. That way, maybe he could get some boost in some areas and maybe start to generate some X Factors as well if we give him an X Factor challenge. So excited for him. We also do have Dean Perron, who's more of a grinder. I don't expect this guy to grow crazy, but he has low top 6 potential. So if he could become at least like a bottom 6 forward, that would be nice for me. He is not very good offensively, though. He does have some physical attributes, but he's not the best player all around. I just hope that we can maybe generate him into actually a grinder. So he's going to be on that second line. Actually, he's a right winger. I didn't even realize. So I'll move him over to the right side because obviously I don't really care about the actual guys that are just filling out a roster. Then in terms of defensive play, we have Spike Parks, who we drafted with our 3rd round selection. He's a DFD. I might give him like some goals of shot blocking just to see if he could reach them. I don't know for a fact if he's going to be able to, but maybe that helps him out in the shot blocking department and becoming a good shutdown defenseman. So we might just give every single prospect we drafted some goals to achieve. Matt Trevlian's another defenseman we drafted. He is a good starting overall, but only low top 6 potential. And since he's a two-way defenseman, I think he could pick up some points. So maybe we want to give him some assists to achieve if there is one that's actually reachable. We also have Bryce Pavelski, who's a defensive defenseman as well. So maybe the two of these guys, we could give some shot blocking related ones too, or hit related things. Trevlian, maybe some assist goals. And then we should definitely give Staubitz some goals for like goals and stuff like that. Maybe if there's a hit goal, maybe we could give that to Perron. And just because that would be interesting to see if he could hit a goal that's actually related to his player type. And then in between the pipes, as a lot of you guys mentioned in the comments, we have Ryan Tamelin, who is nicknamed the Tower. I actually didn't watch 2BC's series, but a lot of you guys were mentioning about it, and I found out it was from his Utah Yeti series. So yes, he is going to be our starter for at least the first year of the series. I don't know if he will be a long-time player on this team, but it will be interesting to see how he develops. Because he is a huge goaltender, 6'8", so maybe he could become something for us, but at least I think he will only be here maybe for a few years. Maybe eventually he's going to get thrown into the AHL once we actually start drafting like elite goaltenders and all that, so don't expect him here too long term. And then we also have Tommy Shipley, who is our fringe starter backup. So that's basically all the players that we drafted on our roster. So we'll definitely give some of them goals to achieve, and hopefully some of them could reach them. I know it's going to be probably tough because this roster is so bad that they might not be able to even pick up 10 goals in a season, but might as well give them some goals to potentially get to. But anyways, before we get into simulating our first full season here in Albuquerque, let's get in your guys' comments and see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into simulating and seeing what ends up happening. So the first comment is from Nathan Lipitz, who says, I wish your camera was more in the corner. Makes it a bit hard to watch being in the middle of the screen during the draft. And I honestly don't know what the best position for my face is on this now that they've revamped this UI. Because do you guys like my head being over here in this corner, or would you prefer me being down here? I don't think down here is that great for this screen, especially just because it gets in the way of like the goalie stats and all that. So I think up here is probably the best spot for this part of the screen. Obviously during the draft, we could move it into a different location, but I'm not too sure exactly where the best spot is for us to have my face with this new UI. We could definitely try and rework it a bit and maybe move myself over closer to like where the menu is. I don't know exactly, but if you guys have any opinions on that, let me know. The next comment is from Connor Zari47, who says, would you consider uploading the expansion draft? I really want to see who's available, and unfortunately, just because I'm recording this obviously on Friday, which is release day, and this is going up on Saturday, I don't really have time to upload the expansion draft portion, but I did give him a list in the reply of what players are notable that were available. There's a lot of interesting players that were getting left available, like for instance, Keandre Miller was left available. Guys like that, Carter Verhaeghe, Aaron Ekblad. There's a lot of other big names, but not going to go into details with it. But if you guys want to know who it is, just go to that comment in the last episode, and you should be able to see what my reply was. And yeah, maybe eventually we'll do a draft to glory where I actually show you guys the expansion draft, because I didn't realize a lot of people actually wanted to see that portion of it. The next comment is from Reed Quinn, who says, do you have a video of you making the team? And I do not have a video of it, but I could show you guys the jerseys more in depth in the first game of the season. So which ones are the home, the away, and the alternate. If you guys want me to actually do a tutorial video on how to make the Albuquerque Aliens, I could always do a video where I just basically go to my created team version and show you guys basically which font I used, all that type of thing. If you really want to, I could probably do a video like that at some point. The next comment is from Derek Kapinski 649, who says, hey, Burqueno here. Super excited that you're playing in my city. Looking forward to seeing how the Aliens do, and hope you'd bring the cup to Albuquerque. And that's pretty cool that you're from Albuquerque, because I honestly didn't know if anybody would actually see this from New Mexico, because obviously, like what you were saying in the reply, I asked him how big hockey is out that way, and he says not very big as far as I could tell. We do have a rink in an NAHL team, but I've never really seen a lot of excitement about hockey here. And yeah, that's exactly what I kind of expected with New Mexico, that it wouldn't be a super huge hockey hotbed. So it is kind of cool that this video was able to actually reach you too, and I hope that you enjoy this series, because obviously it's kind of neat that I randomly decided to make a team in Albuquerque, and now you're watching it from Albuquerque. The next comment is from Dylan Bros, who says it'd be cool to set some goals for the drafted prospects, maybe 15, 20 goals for Staubitz. And yeah, we're definitely going to set some goals for some of our prospects, especially Staubitz, just because he's the elite prospect. The other guys, I don't know how long-term they're going to be with the team, so they're probably not as important to give goals to, but I might give them to it anyways, just so that way we could see if anybody actually reaches any goals throughout the season. The next comment is from Saturn Otaku, who says, super excited to see where the series goes. A power forward taken in top 5 is a really solid foundation upon what you can build this team. I also think Avery paired from your Anchorage series were number 40, so hopefully that's a good omen of things to come. And yeah, that is true. Avery paired from my old Anchorage Ice Tigers series were number 40, so number 40 for Staubitz is the perfect number. They are both power forwards as well, so I hope that obviously Staubitz becomes maybe the new Avery Parrott for this team. And the last and final comment is from Alexander Deg, who says the Tower of Tamerlan makes another appearance on NHL franchise YouTube. And yes, that's where I originally was like, wait, a lot of you guys seem to be liking that comment though. And I'm like, why is the Tower of Tamerlan such a relevant name? And then obviously I eventually found out that it was actually from the Utah Yeti. A lot of you guys also were commenting the Tower and all that, so it's kind of funny to see a lot of 2BC fans here, because I originally started watching 2BC back in like 2012. I haven't watched as much as of the last few years, because obviously doing content myself, it's kind of hard to watch other people play the same game that I'm doing, but obviously I do know 2BC quite a bit in that sense. But anyways, let's get into our first season. So I believe we could set our goals once we could do that already here in the conversation system. I could set one for Staubitz. We'll do it for Staubitz for sure. The other ones maybe I could give some goals to. Definitely Staubitz going to get a goal here. So let's get into our little conversation with him. So we want to give you a season goal. What goals can I give him? Short term or long term? Yeah, let's focus for the season as a whole maybe, because I don't want to do a short term goal really. So we want you to be able to stay on the NHL roster for the entire season. That's a goal. Well, I could easily just give him that, but I'm not going to do that. I didn't realize that was a thing. We're not going to send him down. Stat-based goal. Yeah, we should give him a stat challenge. I don't think he's going to win the Rookie of the Year this year because of our roster. X Factor stuff, I could give him an X Factor challenge, but I don't know if he would reach it yet either. We could do that in later seasons when we're actually a good team. So let's give him a stat challenge. And yeah, probably goals is the best one. There is one for block shots, plus minus assists and goals. There isn't one for hits, which is interesting. So I don't know if it depends on the specific player, but these are the ones that it just generically gives you. So basically, if he completes the award, he'll get +1 to +2 for wrist shot accuracy and slap shot accuracy. So that's kind of neat. So I guess we will try and get him to score at least 20 goals a season, considering that's what I could give him. And that's exactly what I was thinking anyways. So we'll give him that as a goal and see if he could reach 20 goals in his first season with this team. Now, this team's not going to score a lot of goals, so he's going to need to do a lot of work for this team, but I think he could definitely do it. And aside from that, I don't know if I should give any of these other guys some goals or not. Maybe we should give one to Trufflian since he's a high starting overall. Just trying to capitalize a little bit on that. So let's give him a season goal as well. And let's go long term. And we will definitely go with stat challenge. For him, since he's a two-way defenseman, why does it say block shots 2 times? Oh, wait, blocking at least 1 shot per game throughout the season. 2 shots per game. Oh, I didn't realize that. That's interesting. So since he's a two-way defenseman, it doesn't even give him a goal. A goal of goals. You can only do assist plus minus in block shots. We'll try and do the block shot one. I think that's reasonable for him. Maybe not, considering he's a two-way. But I don't think the plus minus is going to be good for sure this year. And the assists, I don't know if he'll get 20 assists. So let's just give him a block shot one. See if he could reach that as well. So I think those are the only 2 goals I'm going to give to those guys. Just because if I give them to everybody, I don't think they're going to achieve them all. So just give them to the top 2 overall guys. Obviously, when we have more elite prospects and stuff like that, low elite guys, I will definitely hand out a lot more season goals for the season for them. So that's all good. And I think we're probably ready to sim to the regular season. So let's simulate to the next game, which we'll get to our preseason stuff. We do got to talk with our coach here first and foremost to set our season goals. We already know our season goals, which is not going to be that good. Let me just see what his thoughts are on this roster. There's a lot of work to do. Of course there is. I agree. So it may take some time, but we'll get there. Sure. Yep. It's definitely going to take some time. I could tell you that. I've done this before. So thank you there, Sean. I appreciate it. Hopefully you're an okay coach for some of the younger players on this roster. Because obviously you're going to lose a lot of games to start this franchise mode. And I don't even know if he'll get his first win with this team at all. Alright, so that is all simulated and good to go. So let's head on over to the calendar screen here and get through the preseason. And we'll also take a look at the box score for our first ever game in franchise history. So we can see who scores or maybe our first ever goal in franchise history as well. Because obviously being able to take a look at box scores now is going to make this a lot better, I think. Simulation speed seems to be okay so far. I'm kind of curious on how it's actually going to go during the regular season and all that. But let's get through our last preseason game here. We actually had a lot of preseason games. 8 preseason games. And we did win 1. But we just got outscored 15-1 in a preseason game. That is insane. Considering how bad the Dallas Stars roster probably is during the preseason, that's kind of nuts. So how did our player stats look like in our first ever preseason? Because might as well take a look at that too. Because obviously this is some interesting stats to always look at. So I wanted to take a look at Stalwitz. He had 2 goals in 8 games. So he at least scored the most of our goals in that preseason. None of our other prospects scored, but Trufflian picked up an assist. Spike Parks picked up 2 assists. And then Perron had no points in 8 games. Okay. Pavelski as well. Goaltending, Tamerlan had 1 win with an .823 save percentage, and Shipley had an .838. Yikes. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a rough time when that's just your preseason stats. Like, regular season, we're going to be taking on actual teams full-on rosters, so that's going to be pretty disastrous. I should actually take a look at the box scores for that 15-1 loss, since you could take a look at, obviously, the preseason, too. So, since we lost 15-1... who had a lot of points on Dallas? I'm curious that. I'm just curious on the stat lines here. Look at the stat lines on Dallas. Jesus, that's what happens when you play against a draft glory team. Let me remove my face so you guys can see all this. But you can see Hintz with 6 points. Sagan had 5. Marchment with 4. A lot of people on 3. A lot of people on 2 points. Every single player on the roster had a point except for Esa Lindell. That's hilarious. And yeah, just our stats. What is the plus minuses on our team from that game alone? -6 was the worst. So some really, really crazy stats for that game. And that's kind of fun to see just on the box scores of what actually happened. Because normally, obviously, you wouldn't be able to take a look at that. But now you obviously can. So anyways, that's that. Now we have our first game in franchise history. This is where we're going to see whoever became the actual first full-on goal scorer for this team in our history. So we're going to sim through this game just via normally like this, and then we'll take a look at the box score. Do we have a goal in our first ever game in franchise history? Yes, we do. We lose 14-1 though in our first ever game, so the aliens get sent all the way back to friggin' Jupiter, or wherever the heck they came from, Mars or something. But 14-1 loss to start the season for our team. Jesus. So who scored our first ever goal in franchise history? So after the first period, we were down 7-0. Second period, we allowed 4 more goals, so we were down 11-0. Then we gave up 3 goals. And the first goal ever in franchise history is from one of the guys that we signed, which is Hardstam. But Perron picks up an assist in his first ever game. So the first player that we actually ever drafted to pick up a point is Perron and not our first round pick. That's actually kind of insane. That's kind of cool. Okay. Well, let's continue to simulate because we got to obviously simulate through this entire season, so it's going to take a little bit. But let's go through this. Actually, we could probably just simulate completely throughout the season. We don't even need to really look at anything as it goes on. So yeah, let's go all the way to April because we'd like to be able to get to like the draft lottery results and all that stuff in this episode, seeing where we're drafting. Hopefully the draft class ahead looks good too. Because I don't know where we want to start targeting first for this team. Like, do we want to build up the offensive core? Do we want to kind of build up a mix of offense and defense? Or what? Or do we want to try and find that stud goalie right away? Probably not. The goalie is probably the least of our concerns just because I know goalies always tend to not simulate that well in franchise mode anyways in the playoffs if they're elite. And of course, with the injuries town down, we get a first injury and it's to our prospect in Staubitz. So I know one of you guys were saying, hey, maybe you should turn down the injuries or turn them off completely. Maybe we should do that. I'm just going to go replace player for now, but maybe we should lean towards doing something like that. I didn't even realize we actually picked up a point in a shootout loss or OT loss, so that's interesting. And now Matt Trevelyan's been injured, so our prospects are getting injured, but not the guys we signed. That's kind of weird. That is kind of weird. So we'll get Staubitz right back into the same spot. I could have technically, I guess, told the coach that, hey, I want Staubitz as a first liner, but we'll get Staubitz back in. Hopefully he stays healthy. And I don't think Trevelyan's ready yet, right? Yeah, Trevelyan's not ready yet. Okay, that's fine. But why are my generated prospects getting injured? It's kind of weird. Like, I would prefer it to be just random guys on the roster, not guys I actually drafted getting injured. So we'll get Trevelyan back in here. And we'll take Lindgren for Trevelyan. Perfect. That's good to go. Hopefully those guys stay healthy now the rest of the season. But yeah, don't expect us to win a single game this year. If we do win a game, it's going to be probably fully based on luck, I would say. Because you can see with a lot of these games, we're only scoring like 1 to 2 goals a game. And we're also allowing like 9+ goals a game on a lot of games. So 2 goals against Seattle. Hey, that might have been our highest scoring offensive game for our team. Or one of them. But we're giving up more than 10 goals in a lot of these games. This is going to be a very tough task to get this team to being a contender. But obviously, it's going to definitely take, I'd say, at least 10 seasons before we start to actually make the playoffs. I think that's usually what it takes, at least with my drafted glories. So, let's get Bernie back in. Actually, that doesn't really matter too much. It's just generated guys. Actually, maybe it does matter because of the chemistry. So, we don't want a defenseman playing first line center. So, we'll just go like that. Boom. All right. Still losing every game, as you would expect. But I am really surprised we actually do have a point this season, though. Heikkila is not even a prospect of ours. I don't care too much about him. But yeah, the fact that we actually do have a point is good. So at least we were able to get 1 game to the extra frame. But I do not think we're going to get 2 points in the same game. If that happens, though, it'll be very surprising. But I'm curious to look at our stats here once we get to the end of the season. Like, we're going to have some really bad plus-minuses on the roster. Really, really bad plus-minuses. Because usually there's guys that are like minus like 80 plus, minus 100 plus. Like, it's going to be outrageous. Like, I don't know if any of you guys watched Draft the Glory series before this or what, but there's some pretty crazy stat lines usually when you do this type of thing. Yeah, the simulation speed's a little bit slow in my opinion right now. I think it might be slower than NHL 24 right now in terms of simulation, but I'm hoping that obviously they work on making this a lot faster as NHL 25 exists, because obviously if it's this slow forever, it'll be kind of annoying. I think it's probably because it also has to track the box scores in the background and all that stuff, so there's a lot more information that the game's processing than there was last year, but still isn't great when the game is very slow. All right. Still simulating. We're in January at least at this point. we could stop the simulation here shortly. So then we're going to check the simulation here once we get done. There we go. So yeah, we only have 1 point so far. We are 0-52-1 on the season, which is interesting. Who's leading us in points right now, to curiosity, at this part of the season? It's currently Staubitz with 25 points. I don't know if he's going to reach that 20 goal unless he has 20 goals, 5 assists. But we're scoring 1.02 goals per game. You can see on these sides on this part. We don't even have to look at the other screens, which is nice. But we're scoring 1.02 goals for per game. We're allowing 8.21 per game. Our power play is 7.2%, and our penalty kill is 66.2%. Jeez. So we're having a really tough time this season, which is not really a surprise. And then based on our team stats alone here, you can see Staubitz leading with 25 points. Trevelyan has 18 points apparently already this season. Staubitz has 11 goals. So Staubitz actually might be able to reach that 20 goal plateau, but there's not a lot of season left. Trevelyan has 15 assists, so maybe we could have given him the assist goal to achieve. He could actually get to that. Staubitz and rookie points, of course, and Tamerlan has no wins at this point in time, which is hilarious, of course. All right. Currently, Sebastian Aho is your league leader in points, if you guys wanted to know about that already. All right, let's continue to simulate and see what ends up happening the rest of the season. It'd be nice if we could get at least one more point, but at least I wouldn't even care too much. But I don't think we're going to win a draft lottery just because our luck. But Dean Perron's now been injured, so literally 3 of our prospects have been injured this season. So maybe we do want to turn the injuries off for the beginning of this franchise mode, and then once we actually become more of a competitive team, maybe we turn them on. I want to know you guys' opinion on that, because I think maybe it would be beneficial for us to do something like that. But obviously it doesn't matter probably too much at the same time. But some of these guys have been getting injured already in their first year because our team is just really bad. Hey, 3 goals against the Oilers, I'll take that, considering how good of a team Edmonton obviously was last season in real life. 0-61-1, jeez. We'll go past the trade deadline now and see if there is any blockbuster trades, because obviously we cannot make any trades in this franchise mode. So we'll see what the AI does in terms of trade deadline deals. As we play Utah on the deadline, we lost 5-0. No blockbuster trade alerts, which is interesting, but we'll take a look at what trades happen just so you guys can kind of see what logic happens in this game in terms of trades. So if we go over to activity feed here, was there any crazy trades? Bunting to Ottawa, that's kind of weird. Oli Mata went back to the Los Angeles Kings. Cam Talbot as well, that's kind of funny. Matthew Joseph already got dealt to Minnesota. Sundqvist to Boston. Eric Gustafson to Florida. Sonny Milano to Toronto. Wow, Fraser Minton went for Sonny Milano. That's kind of crazy. Tyler Bertuzzi to San Jose. Mangiapane to Buffalo. All right. Veterano to Florida. Or Zeller to Colorado. All right. So it looks like some people are offloading some interesting names. Oliver Bjorkstrand also got dealt to Calgary. I believe Bjorkstrand had a modified no trade clause, so maybe Calgary was actually on his list. All right. Let's continue to simulate. Let's continue to simulate and see if Staubitz could reach his goal, because that's what we're trying to achieve here this season. Have our players reach some goals, and hopefully also see a good draft class ahead for next episode, because obviously next episode will be a off-season episode. Okay, looks like we're not going to win a single game this year. I don't think it's possible at this rate to win a game in our first season here. It's probably going to take a few years to maybe get our first win, but our team is just not being able to put it together right now. Let's put Dean Perron on the first line might as well. He's already actually up to a 53. I think he went from a 51 to a 53, so he's actually getting some growth, which is nice to see. 11-1 loss there. Damn, we've allowed so many goals. This is outrageous. I don't think I've ever seen a team that's allowed like more than 10 goals in most of the games they play. It's crazy. Like when we only allow 5 goals in a game, that's a good thing. But if we allow like 10 plus goals a game, that's like usually where we're normally at. So we got to make some improvements for sure on the defense, the goaltending, and of course the offense. It's going to be funny to look at the stat lines after this. I'm really curious to see what the plus minuses are going to be like. And then hopefully Staubitz hits that 20 goals. because that would be a very big positive to take away from the season if it is happen. We'll go replace player on that. 6-2 loss there. Yeah, it looks like we're not going to win a single game. We don't care about that. Calgary. Tomasino's not even a prospect, so I don't care. And that's in the AHL anyways. Last game of the season against Pittsburgh. Can we get a win in our last game? Probably not. Let's see. Don't care. 9-0. So we go 0-81-1 in our first season in franchise history. Remember this for when we win like 50 plus games in a season. But if we go all the way back to the early stages, our only point came against the Florida Panthers, who actually made the playoffs with a great record. So that was our only game where we got a point, and it was 4-3 in overtime. So we actually almost beat the Panthers there, but we never came close to winning another single game. All right. Well, now comes some fun stuff. Let's take a look at some player stats. I will actually go to the normal screens to check a look at this just because it'll make it a little bit easier. But let's take a look at our player stats for the season and our team stats, of course. So first and foremost, obviously in the entire league, we're going to be dead last. 1 point. That's actually hilarious. Hey, we scored over a goal a game at least, though. That's positive. Sometimes you score under a goal a game, but we scored 1.09 goals per game. The next worst offensive team was the Chicago Blackhawks, who only scored 2.67. So we still have a long ways to go in that department. Goals against per game, we allowed 8.41. The next worst defensive team is the Flyers, who allowed 3.44. So we allowed 5 more goals basically per game than the Philadelphia Flyers. Long way to go in that department. Our power play was 8%, which was not the worst in the league. The St. Louis Blues somehow had a worse power play than us this season at 7.6%. So at least our power play wasn't dead last. I'm kind of surprised on that. And our penalty kill obviously was dead last at 68.6%, which was almost 10% less than the Washington Capitals, who were the next worst. No shorthanded goals. We did not win a single game on home ice, of course. And our only point came on the road in Florida. 0-10 this season. All right. Well, now we can take a look at some player stats, and this should be exciting. Obviously, I don't care about the guys that are just filler players on our roster, but I want to take a look at our actual players that we drafted. So starting off, we have our right wingers. So Josiah Staubitz, our 4th overall selection, just barely missed the 20-goal plateau. And since he didn't hit his goal, he's only going to get a little bit of a boost, I think. He doesn't get a full-on boost, but a little partial one, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Josiah Staubitz just barely missing out on that goal that we gave him, unfortunately, but still a pretty good rookie season with 41 points on such a bad team, because we only had 81 goals, was it, as a team, or 80-something goals as a team. So he literally was a factor in half of the goals on our roster almost, which is pretty impressive. So he had a good rookie season. Dean Perron wasn't too bad, I would say, either. 16 points in 69 games. He missed a good chunk of the season, but for a grinder, that's not bad. 25 penalty minutes as well, so he's not super aggressive, but he is okay. Maybe because of the power play, I don't know. But he's up to a 54. Staubitz is still a 79. So not too bad from those two prospects. From a defensive prospect standpoint, Trevelyan had 28 points. That's actually pretty nice. I could have gave him the assist one. I didn't think he was actually going to be able to do that well. But he was actually pretty good. He was pretty good. So shout out to Matt Trevelyan. And then also Spike Parks was actually not that bad. He was actually pretty good offensively for a defensive defenseman. Yeah, 7 goals and 23 points. So both those guys did well. But they were minus 230 plus, which is crazy. Pavelski had 12 points. That's not bad either. I'll take it. 9 penalty minutes only, so he had 1 fight. And then his other penalty minutes were just regular ones. But not too bad from Pavelski either. I'm impressed with some of the players on this roster. Like, I mean, they at least picked up more than 10 points. Like, even the defenders were doing okay. So, not too bad from the offense and defensive perspective. And then you can see the goaltending numbers aren't going to be good. But the tower, with not even a single point, the actual OT loss came from Tommy Shipley. But Tamerlan had an .834 save percentage and 8.37 goals against. So he was the better of the two goalies in save percentage. But he didn't get our only point. That was Tommy Shipley. So who got it to overtime, an .826 save percentage, 8.42 goals against. And no assists for either goaltender this year. All right. So there is that. Let's go to entire league here. And so Sebastian Aho led the league in points, just in case you guys want to take a look at this. I don't really care too much about the rest of the league, but Pasternak and Rantanen led in goals with 57. Matthews up there with 56. Okay. A lot of 100-point players. Defensively, best was Cale Makar with 92 points. Quinn Hughes with 90. Yossi with 81. All right. Best goalie this season for wins was Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Most shutouts, Jacob Markstrom, Jake Ottinger. That's kind of funny. 2 Jakes. Best save percentage by a starter was a .919 from Vasilevsky. And best goals against average by a starter was also Vasilevsky. So likely Vasilevsky, unless they give it to a goalie with more wins, will get a Vezina. Any goalie goals this season? No. Most assists was Bobrovsky with 4. Best rookie this season was Artem Gerbeshkov, the guy that went first overall to Chicago with 52 points in his rookie season. Then it was Shane Lorentz who went third overall with 50 points. Matvei Michkov up there with 42. Stelbitz was number 4 in rookie points. I'll take it. And Trevelyan was number 6. Yeah, I'm impressed. I am impressed. And then obviously the AHL doesn't matter because we don't have any prospects down there at the moment. All right, so the regular season is done. Now we got to get through the rest of the season and see who ends up winning the Stanley Cup in year 1. And then, of course, we're going to take a look at the draft class and all that stuff to wrap up this first year in Albuquerque. So let's advance the days so that way the playoffs get confirmed here. And then we should be able to advance to the draft pretty much already. Yep. Okay, perfect. So the playoff matchups, you guys could see them on the bottom and on the top. Those are who's facing up against each other. And yeah, I wonder who's going to win the Stanley Cup in year number 1. I wonder if it's going to be the Oilers or the Panthers again, just like kind of make it similar to what real life was last season or what. But should be interesting to see, in fact, who the game thinks would win the Cup in 2025. At least with us as a team. Because a lot of those teams probably had good seasons just because they were playing against us. So who is the Stanley Cup champion in 2025? And we could actually take a look at the box score of that Cup winning game as well. So let me stop the sim. Oh, Florida won the Stanley Cup. Okay, so Florida's a back-to-back champ. Chicago won the AHL. But if we go to box scores here. Oh, they did play Edmonton for the Cup again. Oh, that's hilarious. That is actually kind of hilarious. So they did play Edmonton for the Stanley Cup for the back-to-back seasons. Florida went 16-3 on to win that Stanley Cup, as they won 4-2 in this game against the Oilers. But the Stanley Cup winning goal, basically Anton Lundell. So the Florida Panthers scored 3 goals in the span of a minute in that first period. And then they could pretty much just lock down the rest of that game at that point. It is still a little bit bugged though, where it shows you can see how much goals that they've scored. It says only 1 goal. It's because that's cumulative to the series right now. So it is a bug right now because originally it's supposed to say obviously how much they've scored in the entire playoffs, but right now it only shows in the round. So that's still a bug that they need to address, I guess. But shout out to the Florida Panthers for winning the Stanley Cup in year number 1. We'll take a look at the awards here. So yeah, Florida winning the Stanley Cup back-to-back seasons. Edmonton had the President's Trophy, so Edmonton had that curse a little bit near the end. And yeah, back-to-back same Stanley Cup finals, which is kind of funny. 3 straight finals for the Florida Panthers as well. Individual awards, Aho won the Art Ross, Austin Matthews to Hart, Cale Makar to Norris, Aho to Lady Byng, Gerbeshkov for Chicago wins the Calder, Barkov won the Conn Smythe for Florida. Vasilevsky wins the Vezina. All right. Also, it's kind of weird seeing McDavid on the Conn Smythe list, even though the Oilers didn't win the Cup. I'm still not used to that. Then we had the Jennings going to Joey Decord. I don't know why Decord's in Calgary. He must have got dealt or something. Huh. And then there's the first ever award to an Albuquerque guy. We knew we were going to get a Bill Masterton because of the plus-minus. But it goes to Spike Parks. So Spike Parks, the first ever winner of an award on our team. It's not a major award, but still, shout out to Spike. Buffalo's head coach wins a Jack Adams, so I guess technically that would be Lindy Ruff. Pittsburgh, Sidney Crosby winning a Selke. Austin Matthews winning a Ted Lindsay. Mikko Rantanen, the Maurice Richard. Him and Pasternak, actually, for that matter. All right. So there is the awards for the season. Now let's continue to simulate up to the draft so we can take a look at what the prospects are looking like for this year's class. Obviously, in next episode, if you guys could remind me also about upgrading our scouts, let me know. And we'll try and remember for the next episode. But anyways, what I just went woohoo about, we have won the draft lottery. We'll have the first overall pick in 2025. So that's a great way to start off our franchise. Utah has number 2. Winnipeg moves from 13 to 3. Damn, that's crazy. Philadelphia at 4, and then you have Pittsburgh at 5, okay? So we have the first overall selection, which means we could take anybody we want in a draft, which is nice. Hopefully it's a good class, because that would make it even better. Retirements don't really matter too much, but a lot of guys that were playing, as you would expect, like in the 2010s and all that, like Baxter and Wheeler, Burns, etc. So there is the retirements. And Brent Burns is now a coach. That's kind of interesting. Corey Perry and Shea Weber are now scouts. All right. And then in terms of coach retirements, we did not lose anybody in Albuquerque or Burnaby, so that's good. Not that we need to change coaches anyways. Let's take a look at what this draft class looks like and maybe do some draft interviews. All right, so we don't know too much about this draft, unfortunately. But we don't have anything on Mike Robertson or Anton Frundell. However, Kari Ristolainen is another power forward. He is a center, though. I don't know if we need more power forwards necessarily just because we have Staubitz. Larmour, I don't know if he's a real player or not. I don't think he is, but I could be wrong. He could end up being interesting. He is a sniper. You also do have guys like Roger McQueen, Porter Martone. There is also Michael Misa we could draft if we want Michael Misa. That way we have a playmaker next to a power forward. Because it looks like probably centers are the way to go. And if we are going for centers, Ristolainen's apparently the best, or Larmour. We could also try and find out more about Robertson. So let's interview Mike Robertson here and see if we could find out about how good he actually is, like what type of player he is and all that. So what is his strength? Has to be a shot, so he seems to be like more of a sniper, I'd assume. Let's just go weakness. I'm guessing physicality. Yeah, exactly. Whenever they're a sniper, it always seems their weakness is physicality. Let's see. Play style, personality. I think it was play style that we find about NHL readiness, right? Yeah. He's going to be NHL ready, I know for sure, but he should be able to make an impact right away, yeah. So he's probably a center sniper. So we could go with either him or Larmour if we want a center sniper. It says he's not a sniper guaranteed, but if he's not good physicality-wise, he's not a power forward. So I think we're leaning towards one of these 3 guys to take with the first pick. I'd probably lean towards one of the snipers, but then again, Ristolainen's really good too, and hard to pass up since he's a power forward as well. But since we already have a power forward in Staubitz, do we want another power forward, or do we want to go with a sniper instead? So that will be interesting. What about defenders? What is there for defenders out there for like next round and all that? And probably some guaranteed top 4s and all that. Actually, we should see if there's any guys that might be low elite here, because that'd be nice. So obviously there's the medium elites. Is there any low elites? Any low elites already? Maybe Ravensburg, but he's a real player, so probably not. Gano is definitely a real player too, based on that. Sawyer Thorne, he's not supposed to get even drafted. I don't know if there's going to be any low elites in this early stages of this franchise mode, but Kaino Reyna is kind of interesting, but I don't know if he's a low elite. Pavel Goldobin. Let's interview Norena as well, just so we can have a defenseman interviewed. I am curious on how far out this guy is in terms of readiness. Is he 3 years out? Couple seasons is what I expected. So he's 3 years out. What's his play style? Is he kind of an offensive defenseman? Yeah, he's offensive. Okay. So an offensive defenseman could be intriguing just to give us somebody to help out from the back end. I don't mind that. I can ask him one more question. So let's see what his greatest strength is, which is probably going to be his shot or passing. Skating. Okay, never mind. That also makes sense. All right. So that's the last interview I think I'll do. But Kai and Norena could be an interesting second rounder just because of being an OFD, like I said. I don't think he's a low elite, but if he's even just a top 4 offensive defenseman, that could be nice. So those are the interviews we're going to do. And final things we got to do to wrap up this episode is take a look at... Actually, can I take a look at my progress reports yet? No, I cannot. I guess... Actually, I can. Okay, I thought that was grayed out for a second, but... I want to take a look at growth from our actual prospects. Obviously, there's a lot of players growing in our roster that we didn't draft, but... Tamerlan went up by 4. He is still a 55, though. So there's that. Wow, Pavelski got a lot of growth. I went up to 24 points as a medium 7. I'm kind of surprised how much growth these guys are getting. Okay. So he went up to a 58. Parks went up to a 61. And he has an award now in his career, so that's kind of cool. So that we'll be able to take a look at that on his actual player profile. Trevelyan went up to a 65. So a lot of the offensive prospects are actually growing, which is cool. And then we have Staubitz, who went up to an 82. This is a third-line checking forward. Some statistical growth, so that's a little bit worrisome. I really don't want statistical, but I think that statistical growth in the shooting category is for almost reaching his goal. That's my guess. The natural growth and stuff like that, it's okay, but a lot of statistical growth for Staubitz, so he still might only be a 79. And then Perron went up 18 points. A lot of natural growth for him. Plus 8 in his aggressiveness areas, too, which makes sense considering he's a grinder. I like that a lot. That's kind of neat, though. Some of the guys are growing in actual areas that make sense for them. I don't know if that was a thing really in 24, 23, etc., but I like that. And then I do want to go to the final thing, which is our players here on our roster. I want to go to contracts. I just want to see what it looks like, the award part of this. So it was on Spike Parks. So Spike Parks now, if you go down to the bottom of his page, you can see he has won the Bill Masterton in 24-25. It'll be interesting to see if any of these guys get any other awards, but yeah, that's it. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the 2025 draft where we're likely going to pick up a center to play next to Staubitz. And I think we're going to be able to start building up that offensive core nicely. Also, I think with that second rounder, maybe taking somebody like Norena might be okay since he's an OFD. So that way we could get some more goal scoring from the back end. Like Trevelyan was really good in terms of offense, same as Parks. But I don't know if Parks is going to be able to do that like every single year because he's a DFD. So I think obviously targeting our defense might be a good thing as well, just to kind of get it to help our offensive play a little bit more. So then maybe we could start to win actually some games. Send anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.